body at ease, breathing quiet, sentiment benevolent. Dharma friends, sitting still in vital silence, wanting nothing, we practice eco-Buddhism The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Amoga Varochana Mahamudra Mani Padme Jvala Pravartaya
Please stand for the chanting of the refuges. Shiva Sanse
Shisim Quim Yom Ne Shiva Samse Shema Chale Sancho Ilche Shiva Samse Shema Chale Sancho Ilche
I go for refuge to the Buddha
I go for refuge to the Buddha
and resolve with all beings
and resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
and realize the great way.
and realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma
I go for refuge to the Dharma
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teachings
I will penetrate the teachings
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha
I go for refuge to the Sangha
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
Please return to your meditation for about another 5 minutes, which will be followed by our Dharma talk. Please come a little closer, whatever that might mean for you. Thank you. Please join me in some simple stretching exercises. They're kind of mindfulness practices intended to help with the transition from the meditation to our Dharma talk, and to get back to the body. So, you've done them before, many times perhaps. Let it not be perfunctory. And while you're following along, or if you know them by heart, please consciously deepen your breathing. Even 3 deep breaths done with full attention can really bring a transformation. And the thing about going slow is that actually it helps us to pay more attention to each moment rather than having our mind at the end of these practices. Please stretch your legs and sit comfortably. Even moving to a chair, or perhaps you're already there. Drizzle here this morning. In the last 2 weeks, our gardens have really grown. So many special plants, especially one red cannabis in bloom on the other side. Chickens still alive. Gratitude to those who took care. Good morning and welcome in from the 10 directions. Metta Sutta, scripture on loving kindness. Sharing a few lines. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, peaceful and calm, something
Wise.
Hmm?
Wise.
Wise. And I'm going to go all over the place. Contented and easily satisfied. Straightforward and gentle in speech. And it goes beautifully on. I like to a little bit dwell on, by varying all over the place, on contented and easily satisfied and straightforward, gentle in speech. Maum and Hayan and I have been away for 2 weeks. The first week at our annual summer Youngmen Junction silent retreat at our Chicago temple with people from our other temples, either live, it was our first live retreat, or online. And then a week of largely talking. Our annual meeting of our seminary students, our annual meeting of our Sangha Council, which is the council of ordained members of the Buddhist Society. Yeah. So we were hours in meetings, talking and listening. I felt, and I'm sure others differ, so I only give my own account, that it was really kind of a robust, live, down to earth, vibrant time together. Yeah. And what came out for me was the straightforward and gentle in speech, in a way. I began to see how speech can be so important, and the way we speak. And also, I think more important, listening. Because if we aren't able to listen really deeply, what have we really got to say? At least that's how it is for me. So I decided to do a little research on speech and also listening. And the speech, right speech or balanced speech, is one of the tenets of the Eightfold Path. And what the Buddha had to say about speech is abstinence from false speech. So he says, abstain from false speech, abstain from malicious speech, abstain from harsh speech, and abstain from idle chatter. Do you get those ones? I remember bristling against them a little bit when I first read about them from a book by Sangharakshita many years ago. Here's a more vernacular version of those. Not lying. Not using speech that creates discord among people. Not using swear words or a cynical, hostile, sarcastic, or raised tone of voice. Not engaging in gossip. Third rendition. Positive. Say only what is true. Speak in ways which promote harmony among people. Use a tone of voice that is pleasing, kind, and gentle. Speak mindfully in order that our speech is useful and purposeful. By undertaking these guidelines for speech, as a practice, we commit to greater awareness of our body, mind, and emotions. By committing to greater awareness of speech, we must commit to greater awareness of our body, mind, and emotions. Mindfulness, and that is attention, moment to moment, full of attention. Attentionful makes it possible to recognize that what we are about to say before we say it, and thus offers us the freedom to choose when to speak, what to say, and how to say it. This is by attending to our thoughts, our emotions, our body. With this being full of attention, we see that the heart is the ground from which our speech grows. Not just kind of the heart, but a kind of softening of the heart. It's kind of a place between being thick-skinned, too hard, and thin-skinned, too not sure what the right word is on that other end. Yeah. But it's about really a wise heart. And in our tradition, remember that a wise and compassionate heart has to do with, it's the calligraphy for mind. This is like this and this is heart mind. So there's not a separation. So with mindfulness, with it being attention-full, we see that the heart is the ground from which our speech grows, what comes out of our mouth. We learn to restrain our speech in moments of anger, hostility, and confusion, and over time to train the heart to more frequently incline toward wholesome states such as love, kindness, empathy. From these heart states, love, kindness, and empathy, right speech, balanced speech, that's a place between thick and thin skin, naturally arises. Yeah. As I'm talking about this, I've had some experience, mostly in not doing it very well, and understand more and more how important it is for me to do better. Now the listening. There is a book, The Zen of Listening, by Rebecca Sharif, and in it she writes, listening is one of our greatest personal natural resources. Listening is one of our greatest personal natural resources. Yet, it is by far one of the most underdeveloped abilities. And listening under stress is particularly difficult. Just read that again, because I have not much more to say about listening right now. Listening is one of our greatest personal resources, yet it is by far one of the most underdeveloped abilities. Listening under stress is particularly difficult. One of my overall experiences with listening is the phrase, first seek to understand rather than to be understood. A lot of times, I know what I know. Doesn't matter so much if everybody else does, but I don't know what the person in front of me knows. And so for me, it's really important to listen. And it so much affects then what comes out of my mouth. So it's all complicated. The nature of our being human beings. We're all falling down and getting up, and falling down and getting up with our listening and speaking skills. So I have a couple of examples to be more specific. I always find that if I ask someone to be more specific, that I learn so much more about a situation, so I have a broader mind about it, rather than a kind of knee-jerk reaction, which sometimes I have. I don't, you can tell it in my body. Haju is reacting. I know I am reacting. So this is one of two examples I think I'll give you. Then I'm going to ask you who are out there to comment and to ask some questions, a little bit from your experience with speaking and listening. But let me give these two examples first. First of all, some of you may know that I have ended up, just because somehow I've lived this long, to be one of two senior teachers in our greater organization, the Buddhist Society for Compassionate Wisdom. And being older sure doesn't mean being wiser. I feel like I have a lot to learn. One of the first places is with the other person who is my fellow senior person in the organization. He's the Dharma master. His name is Doan Sunam, and he's from Mexico. And actually, I have known him for decades and decades, but because he's in Mexico or often in one of our other temples, he used to come here. In fact, he's the person who did the calligraphy for the wooden sign on our front wall. And there are some things that he did. But we've hardly had much to do with each other, except for in the summer meetings for years and decades. And since we're both in a position now, people look to us and say, well, what do you two think about these challenges, these resolutions that we're trying to work with to become a better society? We have to get to know each other. We can't just stand in our positions. Well, I'm Haju, and he's like, I'm Doan. So while I was in Chicago, I just said, can we spend some time together? I need to hear from you. I need to talk with you. We need to learn to work well together. Doesn't mean you have to be me or I have to be you, but there has to be harmonizing, since we are looked at to seem to know something. So we began to talk, and he told me a story of one of his experiences, which really helped me to understand him and beyond. To our Venerable Samasunam, our teacher, who is now in the depths with Parkinson's disease at our Springwind farm. So while in Chicago, Doan Sunam was confronted by a Chicago member in a really kind of loud and accusatory way, saying, this Buddhist society is just about getting real estate. Look at the situation in Mexico. Here's the Mexico temple up here, and this very valuable neighborhood. And look at the New York temple, where it is. It's just about real estate, as far as I can tell. This guy is really good at shouting out belligerent stuff. And he's also a longtime member quite loyal. So Don, instead of doing any shouting back, he said, "Hey, hey, I wish I had his his Spanish accent so that you could get an experience. But you will, because he's going to be coming here in this very time next week." And he said to this belligerent fellow, "Hey, stop. Let me share some things with you." Which he did. He said that, Mexico, I'm just going to give you a real little detail about it, but I appreciated hearing it too. One is that the main part of Mexico City used to be a lake. And all the buildings in that lake period are sinking and cracking. And so the people over time realized it's not really a good place to build a building or to even live, because our last temple, which was more in that area, was having lots of cracks and problems. So when they decided, because that last temple was too small, they had to go to upper ground. They had to go to a kind of wealthier area, because that's where people left the lower ground to get more stable. Some people were able to. And so because we were fortunate to have the funds, then we got a building, which is a really good real estate building, just because we needed to be in a more stable place. It was not that we were trying to get big time real estate. The temple had to be stable. And the other thing too is we have in Mexico City, not in Mexico City, in New York City, quite a piece of property in Manhattan. And Venerable Samosunam Don explained this, and he explained it to me, how they looked for 3 or 4 years before finding the property that was going to be stable. They thought that there was room at the front for this, and that the whole configuration would be really good for a temple. Not because we must get some big real estate. So I listened to him with his sincere voice. He had been Venerable Samosunam's right-hand person. And how by him giving me the details, and also this other person who had been belligerent, oh, this was a wisdom process. This was not, how much rich can I get? And this was not sort of greedy. It was just common sense. So I appreciated how when there's a feeling of, no way, Jose, I want to railroad you out of town. That if there can be sitting down and really talking about the details, that a whole transformation in understanding takes place. And in a certain sense, our being together in Chicago the last week of all the meetings was a time when we all got to understand each other more deeply, because we talked about a lot of important things together. And people gave Dharma talks that showed that there was practice in their bones, which can make the difference of being able to slow down and really be with the situation, any situation. As we practice, we see there's no need to rush into disagreement, or rush into really anything. So one more story. There's so many, actually, but this is one about Bukong. She is the priest at the Mexico temple, and for virtually decades, she has mainly worked in the kitchen at retreats and not participated very much at all in any of our meetings. And this year, she did work in the kitchen during the Young Junction, during our assignment time. And then our Dharma students took care of this kitchen and she participated in the meetings. And she had a lot to say. And I, because of my ears, could understand very little of it. I could pick up a few words. So I really could appreciate her, but really not know her details. It's just that her pronunciation of some English words was very hard for my ears to understand what the English word was. So I asked her one day, actually one of the last days, I had a chance to see her translating our morning prayer, Nyan Sunam's resolution, from English into Spanish. And I just watched her at the table. And she was very intent. I didn't know what she was doing at first until I went over and I looked. And I sat down and she turned and faced me. I said, you know, I know a lot about you from us being silent together for so many years. You've spoken so much more, but I didn't understand it. Can you help me? And she said, of course. Again, I wish I could speak with her accent. You would. It just is very endearing. And so we began to speak about some of the difficulties that all of us were having. And I would stop her almost every 3 or 4 words to clarify what she was offering. Because I just didn't always understand. So she would stop and I would guess and she would correct and we would get to the next few words. It was a very intimate experience. An experience where actually the words did not count so much because there was something else that was kind of intimate and poignant about the whole conversation. It went on for maybe half an hour. And then it was time for both of us to do something else. And I just thought, yes, I needed to speak, to ask for further understanding. But mostly, I needed to listen deeply. And so that whole thing about we have the resource to listen came back to me. First, seek to understand rather than to be understood. All right, let me look at my notes for just a moment to see if there's something else before. If you have any question or comment, we can try to have a little of that. But first, there's just many stories, and I'll simply share just a couple more. One is that because I'm older, I end up being in this senior teacher position. And what I find is that while there is a time to be straightforward and sometimes not as gentle as I would like to be, I find that it's actually more important to let students learn their own way and have their own ups and downs and respond and correct themselves. And it's important for me just to watch and to go around silently, not so interfering. Some people may criticize me for that. And I do think I could do more of straightforward kind of stuff. I'm working on it, making the balance. And another thing is that it's really humbling to me, and I feel a lot of appreciation because as I watched and as I listened, there was not one person who did not have some special offering to our meetings and our groups and our time there in Chicago. From the newest person, it was so very obvious to me. So it is really my privilege, a stroke of luck, the magic of causes and conditions, which lands me here and now, lands us here and now. As we, and I'm pointing to Ma'um and Hayun, and actually Spencer's over there too, to be able to work with the Dharma, with all kinds of people in the crucible, learning to respect every single one of them, even when somebody seems to be up to too much mischief. Okay, so Spencer, like the last time, if there's anyone's questions, and I think what I'll do is just ring the meditation gong so we can sit for a minute and then we'll take a couple of questions. I don't want to take up too much time because we have some special announcements. Yeah. So for just to settle, maybe a 3 breath, deep breath meditation. And it's all right if there's no question or comment, but if there is?
Well, Haju, there are just a couple people joining us this morning. One question I have as people pull out their phones and their computers to type in other questions is you mentioned it is more difficult to listen when you feel threatened by something. When I feel threatened by something, what are some ways I can listen more deeply?
Yeah, I think when we're on the spot, we actually can be more skillful. But sometimes when we're on the spot, fear jumps up, and then fear dictates perhaps not an unskillful response to the situation. So when things are a little more calm and we're really practicing a particular skill, It's usually easier both when there's no stress and when there is stress. But yeah. What would you say?
I think that when somebody's under attack, or at least they feel under attack, that the nervous system and the mind and the spirit isn't in a place to listen well. So I think sometimes the best response is to just exit the situation.
What's the word?
Exit.
Exit.
Leave the situation and come back to it later.
Uh-huh.
Very rarely when somebody feels under attack does that conversation need to happen right there, need to happen right now, need to happen right with these people. Normally can happen later. Leave, come back.
Yeah. That's a lot of wisdom. It's true that the pause is very important and can be very pregnant. I heard about a mother and teenage son, and they just escalated and escalated in their miscommunication. And they eventually agreed that they would wait a time before they would talk to each other. And it didn't solve it immediately, but over time it gave them a kind of process so that they could, when they had once been wonderful in their communication, so that they could get back at least closer to that. And the pause was a really important. So thank you.
James Decker has this conversation, never miss a good chance to shut up.
Who said that?
James Decker.
Uh-huh. Thank you, James. Yeah, I feel like that's a good on-the-ground street response. Never miss a good chance to shut up. Thank you. Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Okay, friends, I think this has been what we call good enough. Of course, this will keep going on because we're always in the midst of listening and speaking. So I'll be interested over time to hear what may be part of your process. So I'm going to turn over now the time to either Ma-Um or Hayun for announcements. Which one of you, Hayun?
Okay. Hi, everyone. It's really good to be back in Ann Arbor. We have some exciting things happening very soon. As Haji Sunam mentioned, next week we're going to be paid a visit by our friends from Mexico. Doan Sunam and Bupkong are going to be coming, and Doan Sunam is going to be giving a Dharma talk, we believe, at our Sunday service. And it happens to be the very first Sunday service where we're live, so you all can come. We've got this huge awning tent set up in our backyard, and we're going to be putting some carpet squares with cushions, some chairs, some benches. We're going to be fanning out over the lawn here, so you can be you can be heard. We have a sound system, and so you'll be able to witness, hear, and see everything in person if you like, which is really exciting. This is sort of a milestone in our sort of COVID journey together, that we finally can come together as a Sangha, and what a special day to do that. So it's next Sunday at 10 a.m., same time as this service, but it'll be backyard, and we say that if you have been vaccinated, you can, but you don't have to wear a mask. But for those who are unvaccinated, we ask that you do wear a mask for your own protection. We want to keep you safe and healthy, no matter what your status is. So please join us for that. Other kinds of things, we're going to be starting up again with our Wednesday evening sittings at 6:30 on Wednesday. If you'd like to join in on that, just contact us at AnnArborZenTemple@gmail.com or give us a call, 734-761-6520. And we will be happy to send you a Zoom link, and so you can participate. It includes some meditation, a little bit of chanting. We go into our song of meditation a little more deeply, and we have a really lively, beautiful discussion each week. So please join us for that. What else? Should I mention next Saturday or?
Yeah. We will be having a retreat next Saturday here live from 9 to 5, and most of the participants will be trained students in our advisory council. People, our Dharma guardians, will be sending out an email to folks about this. And if it's something that you feel you would like to participate in, there could be some room. We have to keep everyone safe in the retreat too. So please be in touch.
Yeah, if you'd like to participate. And then we have our Wednesday morning study group on the way of the Bodhisattva too. What time is that on Wednesday morning?
9:30.
9:30 a.m. Again, call us and we'll send you a Zoom link because we've been doing it online. All of these programs eventually probably will dovetail into being in-person programs, but for right now, we're doing those programs online still. And we want to keep an online component for those of you who are not in Ann Arbor to be able to always participate. Finally, we have our refuge recovery programs that are still running. You look in our e-bulletin and you'll see several of them. And if you have an interest in that, you can see which one appeals to you most. One is at 12 p.m. on Sundays, and another one I believe is on Wednesdays, or maybe Saturdays. Look at our e-bulletin, and if you don't receive our e-bulletin, that's a good segue into asking you to just contact us, and we would be happy to add you to our large and growing list of people who are engaged with our e-bulletin. And so you will find out everything we're doing from that rather than just the snippets that I give you on Sundays. So please contact us, AnnArborZenTemple@gmail.com, and we will plug you in. So thank you for joining us. I'm going to turn it over back to Haji Sunim to end with the 4 great vows.
Well, 2 things actually. One is that if you, Pacho, I think I saw you present, if you could put the refuge recovery information times in the chat for those, of course you can look in the e-bulletin, but right at this very moment, see if we can get Pacho to put them in the chat. So that's one thing. And the other thing what James said, there's never not
miss
a good
a
time.
good chance to shut up.
Yeah, sometimes if there's a really bad situation, something, you have to speak up. But so it's a wisdom call. Yeah. All right, so speaking of wisdom, these 4 great vows, all in the spirit of, in the Buddha's Mahayana tradition, nothing in the universe is excluded, or everything is included. So please repeat after me. All beings, one body.
All beings, one body.
I vow to liberate.
I vow to liberate.
Blind passions, one root.
Blind passions, one root.
I vow to terminate.
I vow to terminate.
Dharma gates, one mind.
Dharma gates, one mind.
I vow to penetrate.
I vow to penetrate.
The great way of Buddha.
The great way of Buddha.
I vow to realize.
I vow to realize.
Maybe one pause at a time. Thanks for being with us today. Hope to see you if you're close enough, right here at the temple in the next few weeks,